Hi everybody, my name is Michael and I'm glad that you joined this fourth episode of the Online Privacy Guide podcast. Today we want to talk about what is identity theft and why do people want to get our information. As you maybe remembered in the second episode of our podcast, we talked already a little bit about hiding our identity and how we can do that. We talked about proxy servers, we talked about anonymous surfing, and we talked about all different kinds of things, how we can protect our identity. But now we want to talk about how this identity can be stolen and taken away from us, only partially, but also as a whole. And we want to talk a little bit about why people want this information and what do they want to do with it. And we all know that, especially in the United States and in the Western world and Europe, we live in an information society, which means information became more and more important to our daily lives. It gets more expensive, and the one that has the most information, that's the one that has the most power. Over people, that's truth of people, but it's also truth in government or in businesses, or it's a high value, and people try to get this information about us, about people, it is a very high value in our society, and people are willing to pay a lot of money for information. And so that also comes true with us and our identity and who we are, because we are the people that are buying. We are the big crowd, the customer that is interested in like products and services and all these kind of things. But how especially do we want them presented? Many times we don't even know it by ourselves. So people try to get our behavior and try to, with what we know and what is our deepest secret inside of us, like our deepest values that maybe we don't even know by ourselves. People try to extract them from us and use them as a selling strategy, and to adopt their strategies around that behavior, that is already in us. So that is why people want our information. And they have not so many borders, not so many things that would keep them from getting it. For example, one big thing is that you should never answer questions on the internet that are being asked to you truthfully. And with questions, I mean things like, okay, what was the name of your first pet? Or, your mother's maiden name, or these kind of questions. I'm sure you've heard them before and seen them before. Many times that happen when it's a password reminder. Then you're being asked, okay, if you forget the password, then please give us a question. And many times you can't put the question in with your keyboard, but you have to choose from a list of questions that are already predefined. And the two that I just mentioned, many times they are part of that. So if you fill out that question and you put in the right information, then many times what people do, they use this information, even though they shouldn't, but they do anyway. And what do they do with it? Well, they use that information to get information about you, the customer, to try to sell better to you on the one hand. But if they also try to, and maybe you have a business and people try to get information about you and the things that you're talking to, and so they could use this information to get maybe your phone calls, your phone connections, or which addresses you've been to and stuff like that. For example, they call a big company, let's say AT&T, and they ask them, okay, let's see, my name is Jeff, I have a problem and I want to solve it. And then, okay, what's your password? Oh, I forgot my password. Okay, what is your secret question? Well, and then you say, you can take a guess, of course, sometimes it may be right, sometimes it may be wrong. But it may be right because if we've seen, all of us, we know these questions. So that means that it could be very well that one of those questions also being used and you have the answer to that already. So you say, oh, what is your secret question? Then you just answer it and, oh, you should be the only one knowing that, right? So okay, so then he has that insert information, then he has access to all these things, to whatever that is, if that's phone calls or something else. This person has now access to that, and that is a big problem, right? Because he can act now as you, since the system or the company or whoever thinks that that is you. So it can create a lot of damage. And what would be the solution for this kind of problem? Well, I mean, like I said earlier, do not answer questions always right. It could be true to some degree, I would say, because if you answer always with the same question, okay, well, so what's the name of your first dog or your first pet or whatever, and you say, no, it's not Snoop, what it actually was, but it's Spot, let's say, okay, you say always Spot, Spot, Spot. Every question, every time this question is being asked to you, you answer Spot. So what do we have then? It's just another identity that is being created, but it is still, again, the same word. So I would say that you would have to use wisdom on what is important to you, and there are things that are not so important. You know, some things it is not such a big problem if somebody gains access to that. But with otherwise, like what I said earlier, with telephone information or banking information or these kind of things, of course we wanna protect them. But still, it is better to have a little fake identity and not to expose yourself totally to the internet than to really know more about you. It is just, we have this whole area of us that we're trying to protect, and if we're giving away piece by piece by piece, slowly and time after time, we find ourselves then being totally exposed on the internet. And once that happens, it is very hard to find all these pieces on the internet and put them together and cover them again. Because we know the internet is a network which can be copied, you know, one file is here maybe, and then it gets copied from another file, and it's there and there and there and everywhere. So it's very hard to get rid of them again. So it is better, I believe, to just from the beginning to hide our identity from the beginning. So then we don't have later that problem to gather all the pieces. And one example which can happen with that is found on the US website spokeo.com, and I believe it only works in the States. But what it does is that you can find out information about other people, and it's not only like what their name is and stuff. You gotta type that in actually, but it also gives you like financial informations and which people are living with them in a household and these kind of things. And there are some information that you get for free, some information you got to pay for, but bottom line is that they're all publicly available. And I've tried that a little bit because I know some people in the States, and what came out is that it is not always correct. It is not always correct, and things are not right, or they're old, there's old data there. But the bottom line is that is like a you know, we can use that and imagine that, well, how can that be in like 10 years, you know, this technology or this exposition of data, how will it be in 10 years or in 15 years or in 20 years, you know? And if this happens now already, and like I said earlier, if we keep our data together and protect our identity, then it is much easier to protect it now than protect it in the future. You know, once it's too late, once it's out there, we have a problem. But now we can protect it and keep it. And what I was talking about earlier, it's just just part of the whole picture. So I hope you enjoy that, and I wanna say goodbye for this episode. I hope you get something out of that for you. And if you want to watch this other episode that I was talking about hiding your identity, you can just check it out on the YouTube channel. It's Online Privacy Guide. You just enter it on there. I'll be happy about a comment. And otherwise, we will hopefully see each other again in 14 days. And until then, bye bye.